Hey, Mike with Nerd Problems Gaming here, the channel where we go through the good and bad of everything nerdy to make sure you spend your time on the best of the best. In today's video, I'll be doing a review on Metroid Dread, so let's get into it. Now for me, I've been excited about this game the second I heard of it. I've been a huge Metroid fan, dating way back to the original game on the NES. I've owned virtually every Metroid game that's come out since, and I was excited to hear about this game and the fact that it's the 5th game in the series and it was a continuation of the story. And so they haven't really had a console Metroid game for a long time. They had a few on the GameCube and the Wii, but none of them really stood up to the previous games like Super Metroid in my opinion. And so I've really been waiting for a new classic 2D Metroid that really held up. I definitely enjoyed the Samus Returns on the 3DS, which was a remake of Metroid 2. But again, I was hoping that they'd eventually make a similar type of game but for the console, and they finally did with Metroid Dread. So this game takes place after Metroid Fusion, making this again the 5th game in the series. And so while you don't necessarily need to know that backstory of the previous Metroid games, it certainly helps because it ties into pretty much right where that story left off. So at the beginning of this game, you get a message at the Galactic Federation of an X-Parasite on the loose on this new planet. And the X-Parasite is incredibly dangerous. It basically wipes out everything it touches, and you barely survive the last battle with them in Metroid Fusion. And so the Federation decides to send these EMI robots to this planet, which are kind of like Terminators almost, which destroy virtually any form of life or hostility in hopes to wipe out the X-Parasite and to investigate what's really going on. But unfortunately, they don't hear back from these robots, and so you being the only person that can stand a chance against the X-Parasites and what might be on the planet, and so quickly you encounter an enemy that strips you of your powers, and you need to make your way back to your ship while attempting to destroy the planet and escape alive. And so like previous Metroid games, this is a 2D action platformer, which has really become a popular style of game these days. They've even named really the genre after Metroid and called it Metroidvania, which is kind of a cross between Metroid and the Castlevania series. And so that's definitely one of my favorite types of game, and so I was excited to see how this game played on the Switch. So with this game being the 5th in the main Metroid timeline, they brought a lot of the classic weapons and items you find throughout the series back to this game, but add in some additional items and weapons, making the game still seem fresh. Also with the additional element of encountering these EMI robots, which pretty much kill you in one hit, it really steps up the intensity in the game. And so it was a lot of fun traversing the environment, exploring different areas of the world, and figuring out how to get past these different EMI robots and uncover what's really going on in the game. Now one of the things I definitely like about the game is the combat. It is definitely hard, but at the same time, I feel it's a little bit more manageable in this game than maybe Samus Returns on the 3DS, where you have a new counter ability, which was present in the 3DS game as well. But I think it was a lot more manageable to pull off in this game just because of the layout of the controller. And I played the game with the Pro controller, not the Joy-Cons. And so again, I think that made it a little bit easier to handle and control. Now I've seen a lot of reviews out there and people talking about how the game is super hard, and I would kind of beg to differ. I certainly thought there were some bosses that were frustrating, that took a little bit to beat, but for the most part, I really felt the hardness was just understanding how to figure out the puzzles and getting past the EMI robots, where a lot of times I would die repeatedly, but it was just because I wasn't familiar with the environment with the EMI robots, and when you encountered them, you pretty much needed to face them a specific way or it was almost a guaranteed death. So once you found where that was in the map and where you needed to go, it wasn't too difficult to defeat them. Now the game does add in some classic bosses as well from the series, but some new ones to this game as well, which was really cool. And it really expanded on the story of the Chozos, as well as kind of more of Samus's origin story as well in the game. And so I really enjoyed that as a fan of the Metroid series for a long time. Again, when it comes to the boss fights, they were really fun and challenging, but again, there's really only one or two that gave me a lot of trouble, where most of them weren't that difficult. Once you figured out the patterns and what was going on, it was really only a matter of time until you beat them. Now I'll say the game isn't super long. It took me about 10 hours to beat it the first time. But again, when it comes to Metroid games, they pretty much reward you for beating the game fast or attempting to speed run them. And usually there's additional unlockables the faster you beat the game. And so if you want to play the game multiple times through, you're definitely going to get your money's worth to try and unlock every ending secret. Now with that being said, if you want to 100% the game, it's going to take a little bit longer obviously, but a lot of that has to do with just understanding where the secrets are at and finding them, you're playing through on a second playthrough, you're obviously going to be able to find them a lot faster. You're going to know the patterns of the bosses, and so it won't take you as long. I think one of the extras you can unlock, for example, is if you beat the game in under 4 hours. Now when it comes to unlockables after you beat the game, that was where I was a little bit unimpressed, I would say, where for the most part, even if you 100% the game or do it incredibly fast, you basically just unlock extra images in the gallery. Certainly that's cool, but I would have definitely liked to have seen maybe a Zero Suit Samus mode, or additional features, or maybe different gameplay modes, a boss rush mode, I don't know. Something beyond just extra pictures and a hard mode would have been cool to see. But I don't think that necessarily takes away enough from the game to say it's a bad game by any means. I wish I just would have seen more extras and unlockables for this game when you beat it, or for accomplishing the more difficult ways to beat the game in a certain time frame, or by 100%ing it. Or again, even beating hard mode, getting something extra would have been cool. Like a lot of Castlevania games, once you beat them, you can play through as a different character. I'm not necessarily sure how that would work in Metroid per se, but I think it would be cool if they would have had additional features like that, where the reality is you basically just unlock extra bonus pictures that explain a little bit more of the backstory, or that highlight past games in the series. And so again, unless you're a completionist and you really want to unlock every single item across the entire world, you're probably better off just skipping a few of the items, because that was one part that I found frustrating at times, where there might be a puzzle or a specific way that you had to get an item, and it was incredibly frustrating where you had to time it just perfect. And I'd spend, 15, 20, 30 minutes over and over and over again, just going back and forth trying to get a secret, and it might just be for a missile container for 2 extra missiles, which was pretty much useless in the scheme of things. And so I definitely don't think you need to 100% the game or get every item to beat it. The final boss is very challenging, but you can definitely survive if you only get a fraction of the items that are available in the game. Now, a lot of people might be wondering, is this game worth $60? A lot of people were griping about that online as well, in the sense that there's a lot of great Metroidvania style indie games right now that are maybe 15, 20 bucks, 30 bucks. And so can you really justify the $60 price tag for Metroid Dread? And for me, I definitely feel like it does warrant that price tag, or at least you can justify getting it for that price, because it is a Metroid game. If you grew up and you have that nostalgia factor, that's definitely going to be a bonus for you. Like I said, it continues the story with this game from previous Metroid games, so if you've been following that for years like I have, you'll definitely enjoy that aspect to it. It is a great Metroidvania style game, 2D action platformer, so it has that going for it. It's maybe not groundbreaking in 2D action platformers, but at the same time, it's still a high quality game, and I really enjoyed it. But let me know in the comments below if you've played Metroid Dread yet, how you felt about it. Do you feel like it holds up to other games in the series? Do you feel like this is one of the better ones? Let me know in the comments below. But if you guys like this video, be sure to smash that like button, as it really helps out the channel. If you haven't done so yet, be sure to subscribe and turn on the bell notifications to get the latest updates of new nerd videos we put out. And if you'd like to help support the channel, pick out content and more, become a patron of ours at nerdproblemsgaming.com/Patreon. And if you'd like to plug into our live streams and Let's Plays we do on the channel, you can follow us over on Twitch at nerdproblemsgaming.com/Twitch. But once again, thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you more soon.